Average Best Cornhole back with another comparison video, and today we have the Wizard L's and the Allcornhole Auras. And right now the Wizard L's still probably one of the most popular bags out there, right? But I think the Aura's kind of making a strong little push.
Yeah, I mean, we all know BG purchased Allcornhole and then they came out with the Aura, so we were curious to see, how they compared if it was the same bag. This was probably the most difficult comparison we had to do. There's a few minor differences in them, and we'll get to that. But they're pretty much the same bag, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you go off the websites, the descriptions are literally copy and paste. The paragraph is word for word identical. So on initial, research on the website, you'd think you're getting the exact same bags, but I think we may have found some differences.
We're going to start off with the speeds. Now, we said that the description of these bags were both copy and paste, and in the descriptions of both websites, they say it's a 6.9 bag. BG, however, on their bag selection chart, calls it the slow side a 4 to a 5 with the 9 on the fast side. Yeah. We tend to think that herringbone plays right around a 4.5, maybe a 5. 6 when it's brand new, but it definitely slows down. And the Wizard fast side, I mean, we kind of think that's more like in the 8.5 range. We're going to move on to the template of these, and I would classify both bags as a medium template. Yeah. Now, I did feel that the Aurora was a medium thickness compared to the Wizard L. If you watched any of our other review videos, we had a set of 2024 Wizard L's that Justin kind of retired when he got these Auroras. Yeah. He's been playing these a ton, and that's kind of why we've been waiting to do this. We wanted to see if they would break down as much as the Wizard L's did, the 2024s we have. We ended up picking up a set of 2025s because, it's piqued our curiosity because they weren't getting as thin and as floppy as those Wizard L from 2024. And we did weigh them. I've weighed all three of those series, and the Auroras, they actually weigh 0.2 ounces more than the Wizard L's do. And we were wondering if these 2025s, were a little bit thicker. I know there were some questions around maybe the fill changed on them. They actually weighed a little bit less than our 2024s did, but not much. I mean, we're talking less than 0.1 of an ounce. So,
all right, the fill and flop on these, and these both we know have a mixed fill. Mm-hmm. I believe that it's the same fill. When I fill the bags, and I every time we've thrown these together, even with the 24s, I try to fill the feel, and I couldn't notice a difference. So I think it has the same fill. Maybe it doesn't.
It might even just be a ratio difference, a slight ratio difference in flats and beads. I mean, we have no idea. That's impossible for us to tell filling through this bag.
Right. And then, like we said before, with these are going to tend to thin out a little bit more, at least the 24s did, and we still expect the 25s to do it. We don't think there was, any drastic change or anything. The Auras just tend to, stay a little bit more firm and, feel a little bit fuller, and they just don't quite get the flop that we've seen with the 24 Wizard L's.
Something that stood out about these series and the Wizard L, I mean, they really can't do it all, right? Especially once they are broken in and they do get as floppy as we're talking about, because once that happens, then it gains that forgiveness that you wouldn't expect from a herringbone bag, but it's still a little active. And then the Aurora, what stood out is we were thinking these were the same bag, but it kind of is a little bit more active than the Wizard L is.
Yeah. When you say the Wizard L, as it, flattens out and gets thinner, it's still very active. So you said a little active, it's herringbone, so it's crazy active to me. But yeah, these Auras are very active. You can really do some things with them. The Wizard L's, kind of the same, but I think it's worth pointing out that to us, the Auras were a little bit more active. Mm-hmm. All right, and some we didn't like, and it's really with both sets of bag, and that's just the herringbone. It's a difficult, inconsistent material to throw with, especially if you're an average player like us.
Moving on to our slide up, and before we start, we've already said it. These bags are so similar. I mean, we're nitpicking. We're picking hairs here, trying to find differences between them. And you can see we are already kind of, disagreeing with each other over the activeness. So if we say one bag can do something better than the other, that does not mean that the other bag cannot do that.
All right, again, that we ask that you guys give us a like and a subscribe. We put a lot of effort and, a lot of sweat and tears trying to figure out the difference between these two bags.
The struggle was real.
Yeah, it really was. So we tried, putting pinned comments, get some conversation going around the bags, and haven't had a lot of activity. But I asked personally that you guys give us some feedback and what differences you found on these bags.
We're going to start off with forgiveness, and like we touched on earlier, we think that the Wizard L is a tad bit more forgiving than the Aurora is, because the Aurora is a little bit more active than what the Wizard L is.
Whole bodiness, and between these two sets right here, I'm definitely gonna give a slight nod to the Wizard L. With that said, we were still plugging holes with both of them. But if there was no other bags around, you would still get that drip. If you had a little bit of a hang, they would still slide in the hole. They were still sliding around the back of the hole, when you missed to the side and then slide in from the top. So there's some whole bodiness there, but again, it's herringbone. It can also do the opposite.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the less weight too, because they're the same size template. They're probably the same size squares when they go to sew them. So there's probably a little bit more room inside that bag for those pellets to move around and shift. And that's where you might get a tad bit more whole bodiness from it. We'll touch on collectability of these bags, and I don't want to say that the Wizard L isn't collectible, because we know it is, but I really think the Aurora is a little bit more collectible than what the Wizard L was. And this is the exact opposite of what I was just saying about, more room for the pellets. The Aurora is a little bit fuller. It has less room for those pellets, so it tends to grab a little bit more when you're collecting. Plus, with the fast side being, a little bit faster, it's easier to flip that bag over and, plow through your collect. On to playability, and I'm going to start with the Wizard L. We all know what the pros can do with that bag, so we're going to take it down and think about an average player. I mean, it is a good bag to run holes with, especially on faster boards or you're a super hard thrower. It is a little active, so you can cut and do a few things with it, but running holes, I think, is easy, and you can tell by the popularity of it at switches.
Yeah.
You go to switch, and how many people are throwing the Wizard L's? Half. Even people, that can't even really, throw that good or don't have a super flat bag, but they're still throwing that bag because it isn't punishing them, to too much.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is a good bag to become familiar with, because if you pull them out, most switch partners are going to be on board with it if they're not pulling a set out asking you to play those, yourself. The playability with the Aura, again, very similar, but I think it's going to get a little bit of an edge on the dirty game. Super easy to put up blockers with this bag, and I was enjoying doing that, but you can still do, you can still run holes with it and be competitive with that bag.
All right, here's our final thoughts, and we're going to start with cost. Now, there is a cost difference between these two bags. The Wizard L's are going to run you about $115. I have seen them on sale. There is ways to save money. Auroras are right at that $100 mark. Now, there is reps available for both companies, and I don't know why the Auroras are a little bit cheaper, especially since they kind of are the same bag. Maybe just the brand name of BG has the price up a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, I keep saying that Allcornhole, they've really revamped the branding of that, trying to kind of bring that back. And so it makes sense that that may be a couple bucks cheaper, just trying to get it in more hands and, get the name in the bag out there. And overall, my thoughts, again, on the Wizard L, very popular in the pro scene. So, of course, that trickles down to us average players. We want to throw what the pros throw. It's not a bag you're going to want to throw in every condition, but when you do have the opportunity to throw it, it can do it all. It's offers a little bit of forgiveness for a herringbone, but also all of the capabilities that the herringbone offers.
Yeah, and then the Aurora, it's probably not as user-friendly as the Wizard L is. I really do think it's a little bit more of an active bag because it's a little bit fuller and it weighs a little bit more. But great bag if you want to work on your craft, try to learn some things. We all know herringbone sticks. So there you're going to cut it and you can try to roll it and do all that fancy stuff with it. But then at the end of the day, you could still run holes with it also. Yep. So maybe if you do start throwing that bag, you might like it a little bit more than the Wizard L. We're just going to end this the way we always do. If you want to be average or something, be average at cornhole.